this is now being used actually to help arrest AIDS. It's being used in AIDS because it helps your immune system. And it has all different kinds of medicinal qualities to it. And it, however, has become a real problem because it's what we call an invasive species. An invasive species is a species that comes in and competes with the native, natural vegetation that's in an area. And it does a lot of harm. It either does harm to the ecosystem by harming other plants, or it harms other fauna, birds, mammals, and so forth. Humans, it can cause human health problems. That's invasive species in general. What it does, the problems it's created here is, and you'll see this when you drive down almost any road in Jefferson County or the North Country or a lot of New York State for that matter, this plant has become so prevalent that it crowds out everything else and it competes with the native vegetation. So like right in here you can see pure honeysuckle. You don't see any other trees growing through it or anything else. It provides so much shade to the area. And it even produces what they call a phytotoxin. What's a toxin? Anybody? Poisonous chemical. Okay, good. What about the word phyto, if you combine phyto with toxin? What's phyto? Does anybody know? P-H-Y-T-O, what's that prefix? Any Latin students here? Phyto refers to plant. So it's a toxin that plants actually produce. This is pretty amazing, actually. Some people think of intelligence and our intelligence, you know, but plants, you know, 30, 40 years ago we didn't know anything about all this complexity that's in nature, about how plants produce chemicals, for instance. This species, honeysuckle, produces a chemical in the roots that prevents sugar maple and white ash from growing there. That's a white ash over there, that 8-inch tree, the tall straight one, that's a white ash. That, by the way, is endangered now, and this is in Corinne's book too. That's endangered now by the emerald ash borer, which is as close as Malloryville, which is about a mile across the St. Lawrence River, right on Route 401 from Chippewa Bay. And there's a concern that we're going to lose all our ash trees because of the emerald ash borer. So honeysuckle does a lot of bad things. One thing it does is it comes into open fields. We have some bird species, nesting birds. Which page is that on? That show, that picture?
It's still on the honeysuckle page.
Yeah, go ahead. Mention this.
Yeah, so what we have is, you know, since, you know, the early 50s, 60s, and 70s, a lot of our agricultural operations that we had, which were quite prevalent here in northern New York, are starting to slowly disappear. You're starting to see a lot of these old farmsteads really revert into residential parks, building development, strip malls, etc. Also, a lot of the federal funding and state funding has kind of trickled away over the years, which really isn't supporting a lot of these large-scale agricultural businesses that we have. So what's happening is those fields that didn't get bought up for residential commercial buildings or development lots are being abandoned. So what we are seeing as conservationists, you're seeing a lot of these large open expanses that were really vital to a lot of our native grassland nesting birds, like the eastern meadowlark. You can see it's very distinctive. It's got a very bright yellow orangish breast. And then also what's called a bobolink. Yeah, it's got a kind of a crazy name to it. But you'll see these two species are very prevalent in a lot of our upstate New York grasslands. What has happened since these fields are being abandoned, invasives like honeysuckle, other invasives like, say, pale swallowwort, black swallowwort, the list really goes on, are starting to invade. And what they're causing, and as Don mentioned, they're really starting to change it at all stratifications. You know, you see here this 4 or 5 feet tall. It's really proliferous. It's it comes out early in the spring. It's nice and green. But then when you start to look underneath it, it's really interesting to see how it's changed everything. It's shaded out all the ground at the benthic stratification. Yeah, anyways. So if you look underneath here, if I can have everyone squat down and look underneath here. See how you've got honeysuckle here, And then you've got, actually what we have is our native gray stem dogwood. We've got gray stem dogwood, we've got red osier dogwood. There's, you know, a variety of native dogwoods, which are really our shrubland species. And if you look underneath them, it really kind of looks lush. Green, you've got a lot of different grasses coming in. Don's a lot better at naming every one of these. I mean, he could name every single plant in here. Me, I just know they're grasses. But if you look underneath the honeysuckle, what's happened is it's not only shaded out, but those phytotoxins that Don was talking about have really started to alter the composition, the chemical composition of the soils. So what you have here is now the honeysuckle has created a perfect environment for itself to be able to reproduce and continue to spread. Pretty neat, huh?